الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين. اللهم ربنا أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم أرنا حقائق الأشياء كما هي ربنا زدنا علما وعملا وإخلاصا يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصر أولياءك في غزة وفي الضفة فلسطين كلها وفي مشارق الأرض ومغاربها وانصرهم على عدوك وعدوهم إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم فرج عنا وعن عبادك في غزة وفي الضفة وفي فلسطين كلها وفي مشارق الأرض ومغاربها. اللهم نفس كربنا وكربهم وثبت أقدامنا وأقدامهم والطف بنا وبهم يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. So, China is no longer a dictatorship of proletariat, but it is a dictatorship nevertheless, and the Maoist political program and infrastructure has been modified but not abandoned. That's the key point. Okay, see the note 30. So the note 30 reads, I have argued elsewhere. That's a classic paper on a mutiny in East Europe. Fortunately, I used to have a copy of it, but I should try to get it from somewhere. I have argued elsewhere that the dictatorship of the proletariat is also a capitalist state form, on the grounds that the ultimate objective pursued by the dictatorship of the proletariat is material abundance. And this legitimates the prioritization of long-run capital accumulation as an end in itself. So that's basically Marxism and capitalism, liberal capitalism or non-Marxist capitalism are forms of capitalism, ideologies of capitalism, because Marxist and non-Marxist forms of capitalism or political and economic organization, we are justified in calling them capitalism because in the end, both Marxist and non-Marxist forms of capitalism, their end is material abundance. And material abundance basically means overcoming scarcity. And overcoming scarcity is based on the idea that human needs are unlimited or undetermined, at least. But resources to fulfill those needs are limited. And the purpose of political and economic organization and human, individual and social endeavor is to overcome this limitation. And this is a moral perceptive or precept, which ultimately, so both Marxist and non-Marxist capitalists are committed to this goal What they differ in is the strategy to achieve this goal, and they differ on political strategy as well as economic, social, and individual strategy. So that leads to different political organization and economic organization, but the goal is the same, and that goal ultimately, uh, based on a basic value of freedom, um, that the human has right, individual has right to will what it wills, and there shouldn't be any limitation on his will and desires, except the limitations as self-discipline, limited self, or if those desire or that will interferes with the similar will of other human being or a group of human beings, etc. So this is called sovereignty of desires. So they basically desires. So both Marxist and non-Marxist capitalism believe in sovereignty of desires, which is another way of saying they believe that human being is divine. Because belief in sovereignty of desire, according to Islamic teaching, is to believe that humans are God. The Quran, for example, says, أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. Haven't you seen a person who has made his own desires into his God? And what does it mean? That he or she believes in the sovereignty of his or her desires. So that's another way of saying that human beings are God, divine. And that's the basic assumption of modern capitalist civilization or barbarism. And that's the basic precept of modernity. And that's what belief in freedom mean. And capital is a concrete form of freedom, because in order to be free, you need to overcome scarcity. And the way you overcome this scarcity is capitalism, or accumulation for the sake of accumulation. So that's what it means. I have argued elsewhere that the dictatorship of the proletariat is also a capitalist state form, on the grounds that the ultimate objective pursued by should be pursued, not perused. By the dictatorship of the proletariat is material abundance, and this legitimates the prioritization of long-term capital accumulation as an end in itself. So you might have to put limits in the short run in order to achieve long run capital accumulation, but long run capital accumulation remains an end in itself. So China is no longer a dictatorship of the proletariats, but it is a dictatorship nevertheless. And the Maoist political program and infrastructure has been modified but not abandoned. I hold this view because so these are some of the reasons. And the state has sprawled. Its sphere of social intervention has expanded, not shrunk. So a state remains the main vehicle of modernization or capitalism. not just and central state obviously, but also local states and regional states. And there's also sort of competition between different states within the system. And the second one is planning has not been abandoned. So basic difference between the techniques of Marxist as against liberal capitalism is planning. So Marxist regimes rely on planning. On the other hand, the main vehicle of the main vehicle of planning is the state in Marxist regime. On the other hand, the main vehicle of planning in liberal regimes is the stock exchange. Because that gives the investors and a clue as to where they should invest, etc. So that's the main difference. So this planning has not been abandoned. It means it remains some sort of a Marxist state. The state seeks to govern the market. That's another one, very important. Not just regulate. I hadn't thought about this, but obviously it is implicit in what we have been saying. The regulations, the difference between regulation and governance is that in regulation, market is governing itself. But through regulation, the liberal state helps market to protect itself from itself. So overall, regulations are sort of governance from distance or indirect governance. So direct governance, markets self-govern, but the state helps market to regulate it in such a way that it is the particularistic, in particular interests of a particular capital of don't absolutely dominate the general interests of capital accumulation. But it's a very messy and at the end almost impossible task. On the other hand, in a Marxist capitalism, the market is there, not just in China, and obviously in China, market is hugely expanded. So there is regulation as well, and there is self-governance of market. But at the end of the day, the party and the state doesn't just regulate from distance, but actually governs the markets. It governs the market in order to keep it in line with the long-term purpose of accumulation for the sake of accumulation as an end in itself. So there's this crucial difference. I think we'll come back to it. It's a very important conceptual distinction between regulating markets and governing markets. I think these are important points. So we'll just stop here and start from the state promotes social atomization. Start from here next time. Inshallah. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika. Inshallah. La ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka. صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه.